Matt Black Kia.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
South Jersey's play-by-play home for the Eagles,
Touchdown!
Sixers,
It's good!
and Flyers.
Oh, big save by Carter Harden.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Friday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. And the news just broke about an hour ago about the latest. There is legitimate news with the Sixers and Ben Simmons. He hasn't been traded yet. But by the time next Friday comes around, he might not be in Philadelphia or their problem anymore. Plus, last night the news broke. Doug Pederson, the former Eagles coach, is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jags. We will talk about the entire NFL head coaching cycle with Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press coming up at 6:20. We'll get into Doug going to Jacksonville. What is going on with the head coaching cycle? You guys know me. I've been very critical, shall we call it, of some of these hires and what is going on in the league. So I want to ask Rob some more clarity and some more information about some of the things that are going on in the NFL. You can join the conversation as well. Priority messaging through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of CLC. The DMs are open for you to join the show. Also, you can text in, as always, 609-403-0973. Yes, 609-403-0973. But before I give you my thoughts and more details on the Eagles' former head coach, Doug Pederson, going to Jacksonville, we got to get into this Ben Simmons story. So basically, if you haven't yet gone to 973ESPN.com or picked up the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, here's the deal that's going on, and you can get the further details. Everything's on the website. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the encapsulation here. All right. Shams from The Athletic, Shams Charania. Him and Woj, for those who are maybe not fully initiated, are the two top news breakers in the basketball business. Shams is reporting that the Sixers are now pursuing a James Harden deal before the deadline. Now, the deadline is next Thursday. So this is a 6-day turnaround that you're hoping is going to happen if you're the Sixers. Obviously, the Sixers have been holding out for a better deal. The idea is that the Sixers would not trade Ben Simmons for anything less than a certain caliber of player. For example, the Kings pulled out of negotiations with the Sixers because the Sixers told them that Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, and Rashawn Holmes is just not good enough, right? So that's part of the reason why we are in the situation we are in right now. Because there is growing speculation that James Harden is not going to re-sign with the Nets if he's offered a better situation to go elsewhere, which I'm assuming he will, because the problem in Brooklyn is that, when Harden forced his way out of Houston, it was the idea that he was going somewhere where he was going to team up with a superstar who would help complement him. And he already knew Kevin Durant from playing with him. And Kyrie Irving could function as a shooting guard. Harden would function as the scoring point guard. And Durant would be, part of that big three. It hasn't worked out that way for a variety of reasons. Obviously, all three players have been hurt in the last calendar year, last 12 months. Obviously, you're in a situation where Kyrie, because of the vaccination status, he can't play any home games because of the rules in New York City. Durant is currently injured right now. Harden looks tired, like he's working himself to the bone, trying to keep this team in the postseason race. So there's a lot of speculation that because of Daryl Morey, the guy who is basically been the face of all of this for the Sixers, and Harden's history, that Harden would go to Philadelphia and him and Embiid would make sense. The reason why the deadline is now an option is because if you're the 76ers, you have the opportunity to tell the Nets, I can guarantee you right now, you can get this. I cannot guarantee you this will be available down the road. Ben Simmons is under contract. We already know that. But there are other variables that go into this because, for example, if you were to do a sign and trade deal, if you were to do a deal that, it basically is getting Harden the money that he wants, because you assume Harden is going to ask for a certain caliber of deal, right? He's not going to sit there and take the veteran minimum, okay? The players who are under contract are not all going to be there next year, all right? The Sixers don't have to renew Danny Green's contract. He is a guy whose contract could be traded right now. He has a non-guaranteed deal for next year, $10 million. So Danny Green might not be available in terms of making the money work if you want to make a larger deal here. I doubt the Sixers and the Nets are going to agree on a Harden for Simmons straight up. There's going to be other players involved, and maybe the Nets might want to unload someone like a Joe Harris for just for an example. Danny Green's $10 million is a movable asset, and he's a player who could make sense for the Nets in their depth. Long term, you don't want to trade Tyrese Maxey because of what he's done and who he is. You, in theory, don't want to trade Seth Curry, but you might have to. But Danny Green's contract might not be there in the offseason. Mike Gill asked this question before the end of the Sports Bash about 20 minutes ago. Mike Gill asked, do the Sixers go to the Nets and say, look, best offer right now, take it or leave it? If we go to the offseason, we won't offer this deal again in terms of draft picks and whatever other player assets may be in conversation. So the Sixers may be in a position to corner the Nets. Now, we don't know exactly what the Nets will ask for. I'm assuming the Nets want draft picks because they've traded a ton of assets to get the team that they have now. So my presumption is that whatever deal happens, you're giving up picks and you're going to give up some players who are going to give you salary cap flexibility because Ben Simmons is under contract for the next few years. If you trade a guy like Danny Green, he's a non-guaranteed contract, $10 million off the books next year. Boom. Maybe that they can convince the Sixers to give up a Matisse Thybulle, for example. I'm just using that as an example. Young player, asset, with draft picks, with Ben Simmons. So this is why this deal is being discussed now. And that's why the news that Sham reported is legitimate. It's not just another rumor out there. Now, if you read the entire article by Shams on The Athletic, and I know some of you out there are not subscribers to The Athletic, so I'll give you the cliff notes. According to Shams, there are still other teams who are talking to the Sixers, which is the other side of this conversation. According to Shams, the Atlanta Hawks are still engaging the Sixers in trade talks concerning Ben Simmons. So are the Minnesota Timberwolves. For the Sixers, they can go to the Nets and say, look, I got deals on the table with Minnesota and Atlanta. It's put up or shut up time. I don't have to take Harden. I can take one of these other deals. Secretly knowing the guy you really want is Harden. But if you put the Nets in between a rock and a hard place, do the Nets blink first? If you play the Sixers and you're playing chicken with the NBA trade deadline, you can put the Nets in a position to be the one who blinks first, the one who won't go through with it, okay? The Sixers are in a position to force the Nets' hand. Now, whether the Nets are dead set on a specific return for Harden or not, we don't know all the details of that. But again, all the details of this story are 973ESPN.com. If you were to ask me yesterday if Ben Simmons was traded by the deadline, I would have said it was 5%. Now, after the news that came out today, if you were to ask me, can Ben Simmons be traded by the NBA trade deadline? I think it's closer to 55%. And the reason why I won't put it higher than that is for this one reason. I think that Daryl Morey is still working on a level of gamesmanship. He's not going to make a trade for sake of making a trade. Woj said it earlier this week that Morey has been emboldened by Joel Embiid not pushing him or demanding a move be made. So with that being understood, I think it's very possible that the Sixers still don't make a trade. But in my mind, you went from 5% to 55% because what's changed now is if what Sham's saying is, the picture he's painting is that the Sixers are talking to the Nets, the Hawks, and the Timberwolves, and that the Timberwolves still won't give the Sixers the best offer. The Hawks are offering a better deal. A deal that doesn't make a lot of sense for the Sixers. Obviously, John Collins, Bogdanovich, both of those guys are kind of repetitive with players you already have. Collins and Tobias Harris pretty much play the same position. Bogdanovich and Danny Green right now currently are similar players at this point in time. You're obviously losing a lot defensively if you're giving up on Danny Green and you're bringing in Bogdanovich. At least with Harden, you're getting a gamer. One of the things that's valuable about trading for a guy like Harden is he's going to show up every night. He's going to be on the court and give you his best effort. He might not be the best defensive player, but he's going to give you effort defensively. That's where it's a little different. So this is a very interesting situation for the Sixers, and we will keep you updated all weekend long here on 97.3 ESPN FM. And check out 97.3ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for more details. You can join the conversation as we will be talking NFL as well this hour. DM the show through 97.3 ESPN mobile app thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. And, of course, text board is open 609-403-0973. Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press is going to join us in about 7 minutes from now. And part of the reason why I want to have Rob on today is because the news that broke last night. Doug Pederson is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And you look at the options of the jobs that were left. New Orleans, Jacksonville, Miami. Those are the main jobs that are left, okay? Minnesota has reportedly filled theirs. Oakland has officially announced theirs, Josh McDaniels. And then we have Cleveland, Denver. They got their people as well. New York Giants, they got their guy. Of the jobs that were left, to me, Jacksonville makes the most sense. Number one, Jacksonville has a ton of salary cap space. And they have luxury draft picks. They are picking at the top of the draft. And they have draft capital. They can flip this roster very quickly between draft picks and free agent moves. So Doug is going to a situation unlike New Orleans, where he can, and also unlike Houston, where you have the combination of a ton of cap space plus high draft picks, plus franchise quarterback already there, Trevor Lawrence, plus I don't think this is being talked about enough. I think that the owner of the Jags, Shad Khan, and the GM, Trent Baalke, both have chips on their shoulders. I think Baalke wants to prove that what happened in San Francisco was an anomaly, that the situation that went sour in San Francisco that led to him being fired, that led to Jim Harbaugh basically being forced out, is not who he is, that he can be worked with, that he can win with people, that he can rebuild another winning team. I think the owner of the Jags, is a guy who has some respectability, self-respect. You're an individual who's owned the team for a decade, and you've had one winning season in a decade, and you've gone from guys like Mike Mularkey to Gus Bradley to Doug Marrone to Urban Meyer and now Doug Pederson. You want to get this right. You want to win games. So to me, I think this was the best situation for Doug Pederson. Now, the thing that is head scratching is that why did it take the coach with the best resume on the market this long to get a job, when he was the first coach interviewed by the Jags when they fired Urban Meyer over a month ago? This is where the conversation with Rob Maaddi is going to come in next, because I've been saying this for 2 weeks now. I think that the situation in the NFL is incredibly suspicious. I think that it's very, very suspicious that you have a situation where coaches are getting jobs left and right who are frankly not the most qualified, not the best candidates. And I think it's a bad look for the league, on top of the Brian Flores situation with the lawsuit. So we'll get into all that coming up next with AP NFL writer Rob Maaddi right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig, and this is Game Night.
Tomorrow on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA basketball, throw out the records and the rankings. It's a battle for Tobacco Road as longtime rivals Duke and North Carolina square off from Chapel Hill, as the Duke Blue Devils and the North Carolina Tar Heels write yet another classic chapter in this historic series. If it's NCAA basketball, it's right here.
The college basketball season continues only on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 6 p.m.
Tired of sitting in traffic? If you won the $137 million Powerball jackpot, you could take your private jet anywhere. After all, anything can happen in Jersey.
Some people are easily moved.
Wasn't that just the saddest movie ever?
Whatever. Others, not so much.
Oh, look at the puppies!
Just dogs, but smaller, so what? But even those who aren't easily moved.
Look, your long-lost brother's been found.
Oh, hi, Mike. Can be moved by us. Yeah, we're that good.
Use Clark's Moving and Storage in Rio Grande for your next local or long-distance move. Visit Clark's Moving and Storage online at clarksmoving.net.
Sure, we have 30 seconds to tell you that drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. But then what? We could romance the legal copy. It never gets the attention it deserves. And some lawyer worked real hard on it. So take it away, lawyer.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive in 2020. Potential savings will vary.
Now that was some beautiful legal. Well done, lawyer. Well done.
Oh my God!
On Wednesday, February 9th,
The atmosphere is
the
electric.
two hottest live professional wrestling television shows, AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage,
Hottest ticket in town.
make their Atlantic City debut live
Unbelievable!
at the legendary wrestling venue Boardwalk Hall.
Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this!
The best in the world, CM Punk,
CM Punk in AEW.
Hangman Page, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, Dr. Britt Baker, Cody Rhodes, MJF,
Every MJF moment is the best MJF moment.
Jay, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, the Icon Sting, and all your favorite AEW stars will headline this amazing night of elite professional wrestling action.
It's going to be a wild and crazy, unpredictable night, I can tell you that. Too many combustible elements here.
Don't miss AEW Live. Tickets start at $29 plus fees. Go to AEWTix.com.
Matt Black Kia has a solution to your New Year's resolution. Don't drive around in a car you hate. Trade it in for something great. If you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, Matt Black Kia can get you released. Choose from the largest selection of certified pre-owned Kias. So why make a resolution you can't keep? Trade in your old Jeep and drive away in a new Kia.
It's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse. Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night. Of course, Game Night being brought to you by AC Airport. Has the cold weather got you down? Forget the snow boots and pack your swimwear. Atlantic City International Airport offers nonstop flights to Cancun. Book your flight today at spirit.com. Well, one guy who's probably already booked his flight, he's already there. It's Doug Pederson in Jacksonville, the former Eagles head coach, and arguably the most qualified coaching candidate. Finally has a job, and to talk more about it right now is Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press right now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, appreciate you jumping on today. How's it going?
What's up, Josh? How are you, man? Great to see Dougie P finally get a job in the NFL again.
Yeah, and before we get to the details, Rob, I want to ask you, to me, I would say this where you came on, Doug's the most qualified guy of all these guys who are out there, in my opinion. So you have all these guys, Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Eberflus, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Dable, all getting jobs, and nothing against them. They're probably very good at what they do. But Doug Pederson has a Super Bowl ring. Doug Pederson went to the postseason 3 straight years. So why did it take this long for him to get a job?
I think, Josh, the trend has been in the NFL to try and find the next young phenom, right? The next coach, younger coach, that generation of coach who's going to be like a big find for an ownership group. And for a while there, last year's hirings, most of them were under 45 years old, offensive-minded, first-time head coaches. Most of the hires up until Doug and Josh McDaniels, first-time hires, except for Matt Eberflus, who's a defensive coordinator, offensive-minded, 45, 46 years old and younger. So I think that worked a little bit against Doug Pederson, owners trying to be the guy who uncovers the next secret, the next bright young mind, the next Sean McVay, the next whoever you want to call it. But finally, and I know it took a long time with the Jacksonville Jaguars. First coach to interview with him, last coach to interview with him, a whole bunch in between. Byron Leftwich has the job. No, he doesn't have the job. He pulls his name out of it. There's a lot of dysfunction in that organization. A lot of fans there aren't all that. It's weird. Here's a Super Bowl winning head coach, and a lot of fans in Jacksonville, in what's been a trash organization, aren't all that excited about Doug Pederson. And I was just on the radio down in Jacksonville on an ESPN affiliate talking to them about it, and it astonishes me. Like, you're an organization of losing, who's had a history of dysfunction, who's coming off a debacle with Urban Meyer, and you get a head coach now who hoisted a Vince Lombardi trophy 4 years ago to this day, and you can't get excited about that, then you shouldn't even deserve to be a fan. Put back those clown suits on or those masks and everything else and go away. What else do you want if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars? You got a head coach who won a Super Bowl, who's known to work well with young quarterbacks, and you got Trevor Lawrence there, who you wasted a year of his life, and now you need somebody to resurrect him and develop him, and Dougie P, I think, is the guy to do it.
I think the other part of this, Rob, is I think Doug went to the best option available right now, because I think that the combination of a ton of salary cap space, you mentioned Trevor Lawrence, but also, honestly, I think Balky's got a chip on his shoulder. I think he's a guy who's saying, look, I built a 49ers team that got to 3 NFC championship games, went to a Super Bowl, and there's his reputation that he has now. Maybe he looks at this as his opportunity to kind of reform his reputation and quote unquote get it right this time.
Yeah, and you know what, Josh? Sometimes those reputations are deserved, and sometimes those reputations are spun by false narratives. And I'm not sure exactly what is the case here with Balky. However, he's proven to be a guy who could put together a winning team. You saw that in San Francisco. He hired a head coach in Doug Pederson who doesn't like conflict, who is very personable, likable, a strong leader, and someone that is going to do his part to try and get along with the GM. Now, that blew up in his face in Philadelphia when they wanted to exert too much power over him. And finally, he threw his hands up and said, listen, I'm out, right? And then they spin it however they want to spin it. But in this case, I think there's a workable relationship with him and the GM in Jacksonville. And that wasn't going to be the case with Byron Leftwich, who seemed like an ideal candidate at the time for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Byron Leftwich pulls his name out of it. Maybe Byron Leftwich feels in Tampa with Bruce Arians about to be 70 years old, in coaching without Tom Brady, that he's the heir apparent. He's the successor. Let me go back there and I could take over that job when Bruce wants to step away. And that's a better situation for me than Jacksonville. And that opens the door for a guy like Doug Pederson, who I thought deserved to be a head coach all along.
Yeah, to me, Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi on Twitter. Rob, looking at Doug, I think Doug has a chance also to go in there and change the entire culture. I was looking up earlier. If he wins 4 games, he's 4th or 5th all time in Jags history in wins. That's how pitiful this franchise has been. Outside of Jack Del Rio and Tom Coughlin, nobody's won in Jacksonville. And Shad Khan's error, they have 1 winning season. 1. So I think Doug has a great opportunity to go in there and be like, let me show you. I'm a guy who won a Super Bowl. I'm a guy who played with Brett Favre and Dan Marino. I have this resume that dwarfs anybody else going to come in here. I'm going to show you what winning is. And there's a part of me that wonders, maybe these young players in Jacksonville, they might just soak it up like a sponge.
Yeah, that's crazy what you said about their coaches. And 1 winning season and however long it is. And they almost ended up going to the Super Bowl with Blake Bortles if they didn't choke against the Patriots, and they would have faced the Eagles in that matchup, but we would have never had 41-33. So good thing they lost that one. But you look at what Doug Pederson's good at as a leader, as a uniter of men, as a guy who can help his team overcome adversity, and that culture, that the Super Bowl ring, the experience in Green Bay, the experience with Don Shula and Dan Marino. He's got instant credibility, and he comes into an organization now with that credibility, with that shiny bling that he's got on his finger, the Lombardi Trophy, and a reputation for being able to work with young quarterbacks. And I think you got a team a dysfunctional organization. They don't know how to win. They don't know what it takes to win. They don't know how to even start to win. And you look at where the Eagles were with Chip Kelly and then how they quickly turned things around with Doug. I could see him. They got pieces in place there. They got the franchise quarterback. I could see him teaching them how to win, how to be that leader, how to be that guy who can and bring in that culture and dare I say, equate it a little bit to what Tom Brady did in Tampa Bay. Now Brady's the greatest of all time. He came in, he wins a Super Bowl. I don't expect Doug Pederson to do that, and he's not even on that level of coach that Brady is as quarterback. But as he walked out the door in Tampa, the players there, the fan base, the coaches, all talking about carrying over that winning culture, how we learned from Tom how to do it, what we need to do. Doug knows how to do that. He knows how to put that together. He knows how to put a training camp together. He knows how to organize a winning season. He knows how to win in the playoffs. He knows how to overcome losing your quarterback in a Super Bowl year and then again in a playoff year the next year. So all of that, I think, is going to benefit the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think one other thing I want to bring up with you, Rob, because you also are the host of Faith on the Field, which you can hear Saturday at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Doug and his faith, and then Trevor Lawrence and his faith. Is there potential for a connection here that, no offense to Urban Meyer. I don't know Urban Meyer personally, but, considering all the strange things he's said and done in his career, I have to think that his personality is extremely different than Doug's. And Doug and Trevor Lawrence have both been spoken out about their faith. And I have to think that, this might be a connection that is really going to help both men as well.
Yeah, I agree. And Urban Meyer spoke openly about his faith, but you don't know necessarily how somebody walks their talk, right?
Right.
We can all say one thing and then act a different way. We can say this, we can profess this, and then go kick our kicker and refer to our punter and special teams guys, as punter, as kicker, and not even being that demeaning, that condescending to people. That to me isn't someone who's demonstrating, wearing they're living out their faith in their daily lives. And far be it for me to judge anyone. I'm a sinner every single day of my life. But as you said, Doug is a man of faith. He had that connection with Carson. I know Frank Reich had that connection with Carson. Frank and Doug had that connection together. And when you look at that, and you look at Trevor Lawrence also being outspoken about his faith, also former guest, both of them on Faith on the Field show, I think there's definitely instant connection there and an opportunity for these two guys to do good things together and really take a franchise. Man, this to me is a great scenario for Doug. He goes somewhere where the expectations are so low, where he's got this winning pedigree, and now he walks in there and he's got some talent to work with. And let's see him build it up, because he can cement his legacy in Jacksonville. If he takes the Jacksonville Jaguars, perennial doormat in the AFC, and within a year or two leads them to the playoffs and helps them, they're in a division where they can be contenders for sure in a couple of years, and they win 3 or 4 titles, division titles, or make it to the playoffs. I think that's just going to further show that he isn't that coach that people thought, I know what the heck he's talking about, and it was all Frank Reich, and there's nothing on Dougie P, and he didn't deserve it. My man won a Super Bowl, and I think people need to put some respect on Doug Pederson's name.
By the way, the Eagles will be seeing Doug Pederson, the Jags, and Frank Reich and the Colts next season. So, yeah. Eagle fans, get your popcorn out. Earlier today it was suggested, Rob, that the NFL might schedule the Jags Eagles for week 1, just because, they haven't announced the actual dates of these. We just know who the opponents are. Right?
April, yeah.
The NFL likes to play around with stuff. So
that's not bad. That's not bad. Week 1 possibility, because you're not putting that on a Monday Night Football game, but that would be a very interesting week 1 matchup, which will be too bad for Doug because he's still putting his team together. You wouldn't expect them to come out of the gate that strong. But then again, his first season in Philly with Carson Wentz as a rookie, he started 3-0, and that third game was against the Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think the Eagles beat him like 34-3.
Yeah.
And they went on a bye, and then the season spiraled after that bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob I from the Associated Press covers the NFL, joining us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Rob, big picture on the league. I've been talking for the last 2 weeks. I want to get your thoughts on this. Aside from the Brian Flores lawsuit, which obviously is creating this huge black cloud over the league, I think the league has a problem. And I don't know if there's really an answer for it. And that is, there's a lot of guys, as I mentioned earlier, they're getting hired because they're the young guy. They're the fresh face. They're the new kid in town. It's like the person, you go to the car dealership and you see all these fancy new cars. Like, I want one of those cars, because you're driving around old reliable, and old reliable is getting bored and not interesting. And everybody wants, the cool and fun new thing. And it's like, you have Jim Caldwell and Jim Harbaugh, and before last night, Doug Pederson, and now Brian Flores. These are men with a combined winning percentage of almost 59%. They are winning seasons year in and year out, and they're not getting jobs. And aside from the Flores issue, Rob, I think the league has a problem here.
Yeah, and it's one that they've identified. And Josh, I feel the league has done what it can. And when I talk to Troy Vincent, who's the executive vice president of football operations, number 2 man in charge right under Roger Goodell, and Jonathan Bean, who is the head of diversity there, and they make comments to me about, hey, we have created the pipeline. We have a network and a database of minority candidates who are available, but the owners need to ask for it. We have put together all kinds of resources for teams to go out there and make what they feel is the best hire, and make that choice to hire someone of color, a minority, a black man, to be their head coach if they want to. So I feel the league is frustrated because they've implemented the Rooney Rule 20 years ago. They've tweaked it. They've adjusted it. They've tried to take away the tampering rule, so you can talk to these coordinators even into the playoffs and to the Super Bowl, so they can take away any barriers for guys. They've seen the numbers of coordinators, black men who are coordinators, rise in the NFL. We've seen women come in as assistant coaches. We've seen more minorities in the front office. Yet here, as we talk, as we stand right now, there's only one black head coach in the NFL. And that is looked upon and frowned upon, and it's a problem for players. It's a problem for a lot of the fan base. It's a problem for a lot of people. But ultimately, owners are going to hire whoever they feel most comfortable with, and no one can tell an owner who to hire. And that's where I think it comes down to. Owners have to make the choice.
Yeah, and to me, Rob, it's not just, you mentioned there's only one black coach, but Ron Rivera is a minority.
Robert Salah.
Robert Salah, he's a minority. They may not fit a specific checkbox on a form, but they're still minority candidates. So in that situation, you have three out of 32. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying every team should go out and hire a minority left and right. But I'm saying is, when I see that Kevin O'Connell gets the job instead of Jim Harbaugh, for example, in Minnesota, or Doug Pederson has to wait a month to get a job, or Brian Flores had 2 straight winning seasons and gets run out of Miami. And then in Philadelphia, Rob, Jeffrey Lurie, before introducing Nick Sirianni on a Zoom call as a 17-minute monologue, I still don't know what he was saying. I don't think these owners get that perception becomes reality. And when you hire some of these guys, you just look like you're so tone deaf.
You're right. You're right. And I don't know that the owners understand that, because you look at owners and where they're coming from and what their life is. Wealthy, millionaire, billionaire types who don't really have their finger on the pulse of the average person, their fan base. And they are from afar, from a distance, and they're going to ultimately do whatever they want to do. And they're going to run an organization however they want to run that. And they didn't get to where they are by doing anything to appease people. Right. They did it by, in many cases, right, fighting, earning, scratching, clawing, and who knows what else. Now, some were born into it, Jeffrey Lurie. Others had to be self-made millionaires and billionaires. But these are men who are distanced and detached from their fan base. They don't understand or see their point of view. And I know some guys like Jim Irsay's giving away tickets to Bengals fans and $10,000 spending spree and expensive Las Vegas, he called it. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Now it's like 10 grand to Jim Irsay's like 10 cents to me, but it's still nice to see guys do that. And I don't know that a lot of owners would.
Well, the other thing is on the flip side, you mentioned, the 2 teams with the highest concession rate of sale are the Falcons and the Ravens. Well, what did they do? They both slashed their concessions massively in the last few years. So there literally is owners out there, Arthur Blank in Atlanta, Steve Bisciotti over there with the Ravens. They get it. You mentioned Irsay, he gets it. But again, it's like some of these guys, they're just so disconnected. And I think the NFL there's not much they can do. Goodell, he works for the owners, right? It's not like he can tell them, you need to do this, And unless somebody does something like egregious, like a Donald Sterling with the Clippers or a Jerry Richardson with the Panthers, it's not like you can go and tell these guys, sell your team, get out.
No, and that's the thing. Like you can, if Stephen Ross is found to have tried to bribe Brian Flores to lose games, integrity is at question, they can force him out. Otherwise, unless there's something that kind of egregious, look at Daniel Snyder and how he survived that mess with the Washington, whatever the heck they're called now, right? He's been able to be Teflon over there and survive that. So they got a lot of power. They pay the commissioners $40+ million a year salary, which is mind blowing to me. And they're, unless they do something that's going to threaten the integrity of the league or anything along the lines of what Jerry Richardson did, they're pretty safe.
Well, Rob, when you guys get to talk to Roger Goodell next week, I really do hope, as usual, you get the first question. You can get the first bullet sent at him, because I think the NFL through Goodell has some questions to answer with some of this stuff. Not exactly he has all the answers, but people are frustrated. 100 million people watch NFL Championship Sunday. They're breaking viewership records, but yet they have these black clouds just kind of coming along in the distance, and it's like the meme of the dog in the burning house saying everything is fine. You know what I mean? It's a strange situation, Rob.
No doubt, Josh, no doubt, and he's gonna be faced with a lot of tough questions, and I don't know that we're gonna have answers, because Roger's good at that. He's good at saying a lot without saying anything, and he's gonna address the problems. The Flores lawsuit is going to be front and center, and he could take the hey, this is a lawsuit angle, and we're going to defend it, and I'm going to leave everything to the attorneys, and I'm not going to discuss it at this time. There's going to be questions. He's going to get bombarded with questions about that, and we in the media as reporters have to be able to frame these questions in such a way to where he can't really dodge them, and he has to give you some kind of answer. And that's going to be a very interesting Wednesday afternoon, which will be, I believe, noon Pacific. So that'll be 3 Eastern on Wednesday. I'm already rearranging my Radio Row schedule to make sure I can get there, because of course, it's not going to be easy for us, Josh. Sometimes Radio Row is in a convention center, and it is in LA. Right. And then they have these news conferences in a different conference room, or they rent out whatever there. Not this one. I don't know where this one is, but I got to physically get on a bus, get on whatever, leave here, go there. And, let's inconvenience the media as much as possible in the hopes that maybe they don't show up, or fewer show up, or whatever it is. They're also credentialing less for Roger Goodell. Now, I'm credentialed for it. I don't know if they're limiting it to 15, 20, 30, whatever it is, but I'll make sure I'm there.
He's Rob Maaddi, Associated Press. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Maaddi. And, of course, he is the host of Faith on the Field. Rob, your guest this weekend is Jerome Bettis, correct?
Yes, sir. And you know what, Josh? We took your suggestion and talked a little bit about a lot of it, actually, about Tom Brady's retirement, and from a family standpoint, that commitment that he just made, an incredible one to his family. And we talked about it from a biblical standpoint. Remy and I did, about a husband and a wife, and what the Bible tells us about how you treat each other. And it's a very cool conversation that we have. And then Jerome is always a fun conversation.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. And Sunday at 6:30 is the encore here on 97.3 ESPN. And Rob will be back this Tuesday with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. Rob, appreciate you jumping on today.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it, buddy. Have a good one.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night. Coming up next, we will get into the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week. We announce the Athlete of the Week each and every Friday at 6:50 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN+. We will hear from what you guys have to say. As always, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. And, of course, you can text in at 609-403-0973. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
Hey, South Jersey. Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein. Former Eagles linebacker Brad Quast joins me in the studio. College football, the NHL, and NFL best players will be on display this weekend in the respective All-Star games. We'll review it all. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan checks in from Vegas with his picks. Then we will hear from former vice president of player finance for the Green Bay Packers, NFL insider on ESPN, Andrew Brandt will check in. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
Matt Blatt Nissan is looking to shed excess weight this new year, like $5,000. Yep, $5,000 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Titan Pro 4X.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Matt Blatt Nissan needs to move trucks. Every loaded 2021 4x4 Nissan Titan Pro 4X, $5,000 off MSRP. Plus, AJ, the trade man, wants to buy your vehicle today. Get cash on the spot, or trade it in and drive a brand new 2021 Nissan Kicks SV. Just $299 per month lease. Or 2022 Nissan Sentra S. Just $249 per month lease with 0 security deposit, and drive away with peace of mind, because only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. So stop what you're doing and get $5,000 off new Nissans only at MattBlattNissan.com. Negative equity will be refunded with the new vehicle. 36 months, 10,000 mile per year lease plus tax, and $479 fee. Offers can't be combined. MSRP $60,140. VIN and N532176. Call 877-289-6670 or go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 2/5/2022. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
Oh my God! On Wednesday, February 9th. atmosphere is electric. The two hottest live professional wrestling television shows, AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage. The hottest ticket in town. Make their Atlantic City debut live. Unbelievable! At the legendary wrestling venue Boardwalk Hall. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this! The best in the world, CM Punk. CM Punk in AEW. Hangman Page, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole. Dr. Britt Baker. Cody Rhodes, MJF. Every MJF moment is the best MJF moment. Jay, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, the Icon Sting, and all your favorite AEW stars will headline this amazing night of elite professional wrestling action. It's going to be a wild and crazy, unpredictable night, I can tell you that. Too many combustible elements here. Don't miss AEW Live. Tickets start at $29 plus fees. Go to AEWTix.com.
Some people are easily moved.
Wasn't that just the saddest movie ever?
Whatever. Others, not so much.
Oh, look at the puppies!
Just dogs, but smaller, so what? But even those who aren't easily moved.
Look, your long-lost brother's been found.
Oh, hi, Mike. Can be moved by us. Yeah, we're that good.
Use Clark's Moving and Storage in Rio Grande for your next local or long-distance move. Visit Clark's Moving and Storage online at clarksmoving.net.
The uh-ohs are out there. Scratches, dents, unexpected natural events. But with Mako and their magic, your car is no longer tragic. So when life throws you uh-ohs, just say,
better get Mako.
And go to Mako.com to book your appointment today.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, being brought to you by Atlantic City Airport. Escape the cold and spend Valentine's Day in Cancun. Fly nonstop from Atlantic City International Airport to Cancun. Book your low-cost flight today at spirit.com. We'll get you the official winner of the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week in just a couple minutes. Just to remind you, the schedule here on 97.3 ESPN coming up tonight at 10 p.m. Sixers are in Dallas to take on the Dallas Mavericks. You hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Also, you have this weekend on 97.3 ESPN Sports Bash, best of at 8 a.m. Faith on the Field with Rob Maaddi at 9 a.m. You heard that Jerome Bettis, the Hall of Famer, is going to be his guest on the show tomorrow. Billy Schwein in the locker room from 10 a.m. to noon. I'll be on at 1 p.m. Yes, 1 p.m. for Sports Bash Saturday here on 97.3 ESPN. And then tomorrow you have Duke versus North Carolina well, here's the order. So it's Baylor versus Kansas college basketball, followed by Duke and North Carolina. So college basketball doubleheader tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN. And then Knicks and Lakers in the nightcap. Rumors out there that Julius Randle's unhappy with the Knicks. We'll see if he's potentially traded before the deadline. Sixers basketball on Sunday here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Billy Schwein in the locker room at 10 a.m. on Sunday. And then myself and Mike Gill will be back on Monday getting you ready with Super Bowl week right here on your home for the Eagles, Sixers, and Flyers, and Super Bowl 56. 97.3 ESPN. As always, you can join the conversation. Text the show at 609-403-0973. And you also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City. The nominees this week for the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week were Samaj Bethea of St. Augustine Prep, Jabril Bowman of Bridgeton High School, Mason Boucher of Mainland Regional, Olivia Sherman from Ocean City High School, Grace Spear from Atlantic County Institute of Technology, and Brock Zorowski of Lower Cape May Regional. So, as of the moment I grabbed these numbers, which was about a few minutes ago, thank you to everyone who voted. We raked in over 2,500 votes on the voting this week. It was a neck-and-neck race for about 3 days as I watched the totals climb between two of these student athletes, but your winner, garnering 47.5% of the vote for the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week this week, is Mainland Regional Junior swimmer Mason Boucher. He won the 100 butterfly and the 100 backstroke at the Frank Ford Cape Atlantic League Boys Swimming Championships. He was also named the event's most outstanding swimmer. Coming in second place with almost 41% of the vote herself was Grace Spear of ACIT, the senior basketball player, scored her 1,000th career point during a 28-point performance against Delsey last week. She is second in the Cape Atlantic League in scoring with 20 or more points in each of her last 6 games. So congratulations to Mason. Also, a hat tip to Grace, as they are your 1 and 2 place South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week. Again, 2,566 votes and counting still coming in, but Mason walks away with 47.5%. So congratulations to him being the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week. Of course, you can check back the 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app each and every week. So you can vote each week on who should be the South Jersey High School Athlete of the Week throughout the winter and spring season. Back to the professional ranks here. I wanted to follow up a couple of things that Rob said, because, you know, we were talking a lot about the Doug Pederson head coaching situation. And, you know, Rob brought up the fact that, you know, these owners are hiring certain types of people. And I think that is something to keep in mind with, I understand, you know, there's a lot of people out there, depending on what network you watch and what show you listen to, you know, you're being fed a lot of information into your brain that, you know, sometimes corrupts people's ability to have critical thinking. But I got to be frank with you guys, you know, we have a problem. And the problem is that you look at what is going on in the NFL, and it's symbolic of society as a whole. People are getting jobs not because of the best candidates, but because they are fitting a certain criteria. You know, the NFL is hiring a lot of offensive-minded coaches. Only one defensive-minded coach has been hired so far. They're hiring a lot of guys who come from certain types of offenses. Nathaniel Hackett was with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. You had Josh McDaniels was with the Patriots for a decade plus overall. You have Doug Pederson, who won a Super Bowl with 2 different starting quarterbacks over the course of the 2017 season. You know, you have Kevin O'Connell, one of Sean McVay's coaches. You know, the Sean McVay coaching tree is already in the Super Bowl. It's McVay versus his former assistant, Zach Taylor. You know, these teams are hiring certain types of people, and the optics are not good, folks. And I don't understand how billionaires with, you know, extensive coach, you know, PR staff and lawyers and everything don't understand these things. I mean, you listen to the testimony in Washington yesterday by the women who were, you know, basically harassed and manipulated and put under extreme duress in their time working for the Washington football team, and Daniel Snyder and some of the things that he directly and indirectly said and did. You know, it just tells you these guys are really not that intelligent. You know, common sense is not common. And, you know, we live in a world where people want to repeat talking points. You know, I put something on social media last night and one person comments, and it literally is almost word for word what I had heard and read somewhere else. And I told the guy, I'm like, look, I'm sorry that your instinct is to repeat something you heard somewhere else. But obviously you lack the common sense of critical thinking to actually have a nuanced and deeper conversation. And, you know, in a world where you have people getting jobs because they fit a mold, not because they're the most qualified, in a world where Ben Simmons is basically super sensitive over anybody saying anything mean about him, in a world where, you know, people feel like they have to bring lawsuits to get respect like Brian Flores is doing. I just hope everyone else out there listening to the sound of my voice tries to be better than those people in those situations. You know, don't be like Ben Simmons. Don't be like these NFL owners. Don't be scummy. You know, don't be a better person. If we all endeavor to be better than we were yesterday, the world might not be so twisted. But alas, there's a lot of selfish people out there. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. I'll catch you tomorrow afternoon.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Now Embiid for three, and that's up and good. Joel Embiid knocking down a three, and the Sixers go up.
The Sixers are in Dallas to face the Mavericks. Coverage begins at 10 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.